And hello everyone, welcome back to another CSS tutorial. So in this tutorial, we'll be taking a look at borders in CSS. So here I have my HTML. We just have one div and it has the ID of bordered. You can put some text in here, so if I go lorem, that's more than good enough. And if we wanted to, we could even go like that so we can see the code better. But here's the, just zoom in a little bit, here's the text. Alright, so we just have a little bit of HTML, just an ID of bordered. Cool, I'm going to copy this ID, go to style.css, and if you remember from the previous videos, we go like that. We use the ID selector, which uses a hashtag, and there we go. Now we have selected an ID. Now, of course, we can do things like color red, just to make sure it works. And there we go. Remember, you need to refresh your page if you do not have an auto refresh extension installed. So if I make changes here, it just auto refreshes for me. But if you make changes, you might have to click the refresh button. Alright, now let's get started with creating a border. Now we can actually start by saying border style. And here we can say how a border should look, such as solid. This will give it a solid border around the text here. So this whole div is, now this whole div here, it has a border. And you can of course give it a bunch of different stylings, such as dotted. That will make it a dotted styled border. Or double, that's a double border. Or groove, that's a groove border. Or you could say none if it should have no border, this is generally by default. Or hidden if it should have a border but it should be hidden. But it can become way more powerful. For example, let's say we have a solid border. We can add more to this. So let's say this time we now add a dashed. Now here we have a dash border on this side and the rest is solid. So just these two are dashed. However, we can also add another one. Dotted. Now, dashed, solid, dashed, dotted. So it starts from the top, so this one will be at the top. Then the second one will cover the sides. If it's just two, then the first one will cover the top and bottom. And then the side to side for the second one. And if there's three, it will cover the top, the first side will be dashed, bottom will be dotted, and then this side will be dashed again. And then if you want to change the final one as well, meaning this one right here, you can give it a value such as ridge. So now here's a ridge, here's a solid, here's a dashed, and here's a dotted. So it goes from the top and it goes in this clockwise, I believe, orientation. So like that, you can specify different types of borders. Let's say you don't want a border on one side, then just say none. Now there's no border here at the bottom. Now let's say we just have a border style of solid, just so you can see what's happening. You can also give it a border width of, let's say, 5 pixels. Now the border will be more thick. Anyhow, so you can make the border width more like this. You can also specify if you don't like working with numbers, you could specify things like medium. Now it's a medium border. Without it, it will be the smallish border. With it is a little bit bigger. Or thick. Now it's a thick boy. And this also applies to basically any border you have. So if we say dashed, it's going to give you thick dashes. And just like with the border styling, you can also specify per size. So let's say thick, medium, 1px, and 10px, like that. This one will be 10px, this one will be a thick boy, this one will be a medium boy, and this one will be 1px. So it follows the same structure that the previous border style did. Then you can also specify a border color. So let's make the border with, let's actually remove it for this. And let's go back to solid. So you can also say border color. And the border color can of course be, like here as VS Code gives me a bunch of colors. Let's say blue. Now the border will be blue. Let's say red. Border will be red. Hashtag 0F0, the border will be green. Because red, green, blue. And of course we can make this bigger, like something like that, and now it will give us a bluish color. And again, this can go for all 4 borders again, same as with the border style and border width. So we can say red, orange, and let's go RGB 10, 70, 200. There we go. Now this one's a little too blue. Let's make it a different color. Let's just hover over this. Let's make it yellow. There we go. Save it, and there we go. So now each side is a different color. Now, you don't necessarily have to do it in one line. Some people, such as I, struggle with this sometimes because I forget that it goes in a clockwise position and whatnot. So what I prefer to do is instead I like to go border, top. And now I know I'm specifying the top border. I will always know I'm specifying the top border. And here I can specify the color, the width, the radius, whatnot. So if we go and say style, we can say the style should be dashed, for example. Now the top will always be dashed, and here we specify top, and you can do this with all sides. So border top, bottom, and left, right, and I would like to make the left and right colors just so we can play around with that. So color, and here let's just make the whole thing blue for now. And in the bottom border style, I want that to be red. The left color I would like to be pink, and the right color I would like to make magenta. Save that, and now it was much easier to know what I'm going to modify. So by default my border style everywhere is going to be solid, but for the top and for the bottom it's different. So the bottom is red. It's actually a little bit difficult to see. Let's try to do dotted. There we go. So for the bottom it's dotted, and for the top it is dashed, and we specify for the top and bottom. And in here for the left and right we actually specified colors, but we could also specify the style. So it should be dotted or dashed. Same with the top and bottom, we could also specify the colors. And you can see it's pink and magenta. So some may prefer this. It's a little bit more writing, but it's also easier to understand for those of you who struggle. Now, if you don't like writing a lot, you think that writing a lot is truly awful, what you could do is you could move all of this into one command. So let's actually just remove all of this because there's quite a lot. Border 1px solid black. Now have your 1 pixel in width, solid border of the color of black. Red. Now the border will be red. If 1 pixel is not a lot, so let's go 3. There we go. So now I have a 3 pixel border that is of solid type. This could be dashed and red. So this is all in one line. Instead of needing 3 lines to define this, you have 1 line. And of course, let's say you just want to specify a specific side. Border dash left. Now only the left border will be red dashed and bordered. And this of course again goes for all sides. Alright, now let's take a look at border rounding. So let's go solid, and this doesn't need to be just on the left. We can go border. Here we go. Now let's say you want to make your website look a bit more modern, and these days we like seeing circles and rounded corners and stuff like that. So what we could do is we could use border radius. Now this will allow us to give a border radius. If we say 1 pixel, we're not going to see much of a difference. But if we say something like 10 pixels, then now you'll see it's being bordered into a little bit more of a circle-ish. We can also go 5 pixels if it's too much. Now it's not as much as what it was. We could go and say 100 pixels, and now it's incredibly, and now it's like a pill. So however much you wanted, you just increase the value here, and that will create you a border radius. For in this case, I think 5 was actually perfect. So now it's nice rounded, not too rounded like with 10, because that's a little bit too much, but some may like that. And also take note, this border will resize with your div. So if I put more lorem here, as you can see, the whole border did resize. And that's that. Thank you all for watching. I hope you all enjoyed. And I will see you all again in the next CSS tutorial.